Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks Pro. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, the show where we help CPAs, EAs, and accounting professionals level up their practices with cutting-edge strategies for growth and profitability. I'm your host, Lee Reams. I'm the founder and CEO of CountingWorks Pro. And today we're talking about the number one marketing challenge facing accounting and tax pros. And what is that? It's consistency, or more importantly, I would say the lack of consistency. So before we get into the whole subject matter, since we are recording, there's still an active emergency in our area, the fires in Los Angeles. I know a lot of friends around there, so we're thinking about all of them as we go. So hopefully this fire and this windstorm stops here soon. So I am joined by my co-host, Rebekah Barton. Rebekah, if you can say hello.
Hello, everybody. Happy 2025. I'm excited to be back this year.
Yeah, and Rebekah is the lead on our marketing concierge side. We call her our chief visibility officer. So her whole job is really to help our clients and subscribers establish themselves online. You know, how do they create their brand? How do they position themselves? How do they find their niche? How do they then leverage testimonials, automate marketing things, create copy and talking points that really resonate with clients? So today, Rebekah and I are going to dig into this and basically how to overcome what I consider kind of the DIY marketing trap. There's so many technology products out there now that make it super easy, let's say, just to build a website. But if you build a website and it sits there, and there's no strategy behind it, there's no consistent content, there's no social media posting, there's no testimonials feeding the engines. Basically, it's going to be very hard for you to rank online. And more importantly, it's going to be hard to be front and center in your ideal client's mind. So that's what's important. We want to find out who is your target audience, how can we establish you as the thought leader in that space, and then generate as much demand as you can. So if you're currently struggling to stand out in a crowded market, or if you just want to make sure your marketing is firing all cylinders, stick around and we're going to talk about these things. So I'm going to start first, Rebekah, with you. And I'm saying the word consistency is the biggest challenge facing tax and accounting professionals, but give a couple examples. You've seen it. I've seen people start marketing plans for a month. It doesn't work. And it's like, whoa, the disconnect between how long it takes for organic marketing or evergreen marketing to work, or even more importantly, branding when it comes to your target audience is a long time. So you need to be consistent and keep out there and build upon. But kind of what do you think? How do you experience that? And how do you overcome that with our own client base as you onboard new people?
Yeah, I actually talk a lot about this with our clients, which is probably unsurprising, but a lot of them have kind of done the start stop thing with marketing before. They've posted maybe for a month on social, a couple times a week. They haven't seen really a huge return, so they stopped doing it. Or they've posted 2 blog articles and then they stop for 6 months. So there are a lot of reasons that doesn't work, just to kind of start off with why it doesn't work. One of them is that your audience is going to lose interest. If they see you post a few times, you're posting good stuff, but then it just tapers off, you're going to lose that interest. People aren't going to be thinking about you. They're not going to be visiting your profiles or your blog, those kinds of things. Secondarily to that, the internet rewards consistency over time. And I know it can feel discouraging and frustrating, but the algorithms, be it Google's algorithm or Facebook's or Instagram's or TikTok's, whatever you're using, if you are consistently posting quality content over time, those algorithms are going to reward you. So one of the big things I tell people is that they need to remember that they're playing the long game, right? This isn't something, like you said, Lee, that's going to work overnight. It takes months. Typically, we see 6 to 12, even 18 months before there's a huge return from it, but there will be a return. The longer that evergreen content sits online and starts building authority, and the longer you're creating content clusters or social media clusters that pertain to the content that you're putting out there, whatever your niche happens to be in the tax and accounting space, you will eventually be rewarded in multiple algorithms for keeping that consistent posting schedule and providing value to your readers or your followers.
Yeah, and just to add on that, I've from my point of view, and I'm not as active, as consistent as I should be as a busy CEO. I try to, and I just mostly target my LinkedIn profile. But I cannot tell you how many clients have said they decided to work with us purely from the thought leadership, the things I was sharing on LinkedIn, It built credibility in what we were saying. It resonated with them, and I was consistently posting, right? I think there's another good example, Neil Patel, who, Mr. SEO, he'll love that term, but he basically shared a client of theirs who stopped doing social media, a very successful e-commerce company, but they thought, hey, it's social media, we have such a budget on this. Is it really? And they weren't properly, obviously, measuring their metrics. They couldn't really tell where a lot of their business was coming from, but they basically shut it down. And over a 6-month period, and it took a while. So they still were having the residuals from previous posts and growth from that. But over time, they basically halved their revenue. And all of a sudden they're like, oh no, what just happened? Well, obviously you just figured that out. So, digital and organic marketing strategies, and these are things like search, SEO, search everywhere optimization, as we call it in content marketing. They don't typically deliver overnight results because they rely on incremental growth, right? So search engines reward websites and brands, and not just your website anymore, because you're trying to get all your digital properties indexed, right? But it's going to reward brands, let's say, that consistently publish fresh, high quality content, and then they're going to reward it with better rankings. So HubSpot did a survey, and they came out with something. I'm just going to read it. According to HubSpot, companies that blog 16 or more times per month get about 3.5 times more traffic than those that post 4 or fewer times a month. Okay, so basically, by maintaining a steady publishing schedule and using relevant keywords, you signal to both your audience and, more importantly, the algorithms that your brand is active and trustworthy. So I just wanted to add that part, and then let's get in a little bit of the whole idea of, I'm just going to go build a Wix website. It doesn't cost me much. It's live, versus what the automation technologies can do for me. So kind of explain the pros and cons, or what happens when that lack of consistency happens. You set up a DIY website, you put one blog on it, and then 5 years later, that's the only blog. It becomes a dinosaur site, as I call it. But go ahead and kind of, Rebekah, if you can add some of that.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of it, Lee, already. It's just going to sit there, right? Having a website isn't enough in this day and age. And if you do go back and listen to our Search Everywhere optimization podcast, we kind of get into the weeds with all of this about how just having a website is not enough in the modern internet. You've got to have a web presence. You've got to be posting. You've got to be putting yourself out there, because everybody and their brother has a website. So just creating a site, no matter how good it is not going to have the results you want if you're not actively posting fresh content. Google loves fresh content. It loves original content. And the same goes for other search algorithms. We're just sticking with Google because it's the biggest. But these algorithms want to see you posting high value original content on a regular basis. That helps them continually see, every time your website is crawled, that you are posting high authority content that people will want to read. At the end of the day, Google is in customer service. So they want to recommend websites that people are going to want to visit, that's going to answer their question or solve their problem. So if you're doing that consistently with the content you're posting, you're going to position yourself to rank better over time. Like Lee said, it's incremental, right? So the more you're posting quality content, the more value you're providing, and the more you're building yourself these content clusters that are helping you build authority in specific areas, the better off you're going to be long term.
Yeah, you said something that it's going to be shocking, but the percentage of tax and accounting firms that do not have a website is much higher than you think. I've read things as high as 30%. And one of the questions I have, people say, well, I don't need one, I'm so busy. Well, okay, you're so busy. What are you charging these clients? Do you have the right types of clients? Could you be attracting better clients that charge more and work less? I mean, there's so many arguments to that. When they try to refer you, where are they referring you to? People now are going to do research. So you're probably losing out on a lot of referrals. There's a lot of issues. So when it comes to consistency, it's equally critical for brand building, awareness, and customer loyalty, right, over time. So people need to encounter your brand multiple times before they begin to recognize and trust it on average. I used to make a statement that once, this is about a logo, but it pertains here as well, as once a firm is tired of their logo, that's probably when it's just starting to work. Because you're looking at it going, oh, but that's how many. So it can take 5 to 7 impressions before someone even remembers your brand. And it can take even more touch points before they decide to work with you. So as you consistently deliver valuable, relevant content, you not only strengthen your practice image, but also encourage more organic sharing and engagement with your practice, right? So over the long run, the sustained effort leads to greater visibility, higher quality leads, which most people want, and a more stable digital presence. So I'm going to lead, I kind of wanted to go on that rant a little bit, but to lead into what consistency, how it happens. And there's two types of marketing. And I think we should define this because a lot of pros aren't doing both of them. So there's inbound marketing versus outbound marketing. And so if you can kind of define it and then why each one is important, and then even to those that just want to target their own audience, kind of explain how that works.
Sure. So inbound marketing typically is people coming to you, right? So it's attracting clients to your firm through content, through reels, through blogs, through things that you're doing online. It could be an ebook that you publish. It could be, email campaigns that you're sending out. That type of thing is going to be inbound marketing. Outbound marketing typically involves you actively reaching out to people. So, of course, the dreaded cold calling, from old marketing days could come to mind, or paid search would be an example, of outbound marketing, direct mail, that sort of thing. More traditional advertising like radio ads, TV spots, that type of thing is all going to be considered outbound. And they do both have their place. Like you said, Lee, they kind of have different purposes. If you're trying to reach your own audience, doing things like sending targeted email campaigns, upsell campaigns, that type of thing can be really, really helpful in reaching your existing audience and upselling them to higher value services like virtual CFO services, or turning your tax prep clients into year-round tax planning clients, things like that. So that can be a really good example of how to sell to your existing audience. You can also do things like, offer a webinar for existing clients, explaining to them why they should be doing A, B, C, or D to save money throughout the year as they tax plan, or related to a specific life event for all of your clients who are empty nesters, or who just had a baby, or who just bought a second home, different things like that that are more lifestyle related. That shows that you really care about them. That's going to build trust immediately. As far as outbound marketing goes, really the best option online in this day and age is going to be social media marketing. It's going to be a little bit cheaper for you than, say, Google AdWords, which can be very expensive for very little return. Social media marketing allows you to highly target people. The way it appears in the feed is more natural and organic. So people are sometimes drawn in by whatever it is you're offering before they even realize it's an ad. And that's kind of a really good way to start building that trust and building that authority with people. So those are just a few examples. There's obviously a lot more. We could probably do an entire podcast on the differences between inbound and outbound marketing, but those are some good examples to get you started and kind of get you thinking.
Let's just make it super easy. Have a monthly email newsletter that you send to both your clients and your prospects. If you can differentiate them and target content so it's specific to each audience, you will be much more successful, to be honest, in the tax and accounting space. As far as outbound marketing, if you're at least doing that, you're going to generate referrals. You're going to, if you're highlighting life events and things like that, you're going to be generating inbound inquiries, which creates business. So super easy, but it's about being consistent. You can't send an email 1 month and then skip 4 months and then start up again. So that's kind of what we're getting at. So these are all things or habits or tasks that you should have set up. A lot of software, obviously, like CountingWorks Pro, we do all this for you. So, and there's all these other services. So you can put together 6 or 7 technology stack and do what our product does. But it's really important to drive that consistency side. Okay, so let's get into the consistency side when it comes to testimonials. And what I mean by this is, how do you pre-sell your services? So the goal of any marketing plan and any consistent marketing plan is that people, by the time they're calling you, they're ready to buy. They've done all their research on you. They've Googled you, and they've found a 5-star rated practice. They've read the testimonials. Your clients do the best selling ever. They do the selling for you. So kind of explain the importance of testimonials, review sites when it comes to pre-selling your services.
Yeah, so testimonials, like you just said, Lee, are very, very important. You can say all you want about how great your services are, but people are more likely to believe it when it's someone like them saying, hey, I am thrilled with this service. I've used them for X amount of years. They always do a great job with my taxes, or they've done my bookkeeping for 7 years, or whatever the case may be. People are more likely to listen to people like them. So testimonials are hugely important. We talk about this a lot. I often call them your secret weapon in building a super successful firm and growing your firm, because they're easy to get as long as you're providing great service. People love to talk about things that they are happy with. They love to recommend services that they're happy with. Where consistency comes in with this is regularly getting those reviews, right? Like maybe you first get your website, you're super excited, so you load Google with 5-star reviews, you send out a campaign right after you get your site, and then it's 5 years later and you haven't updated it with new reviews. That's problematic for a number of reasons. Algorithmically, it's problematic, but for the purpose of this conversation, it's even more problematic when someone finds you, they're pretty much sold on your services, but then they see the last time anyone left you a review was, 48 months ago. That's going to put some reticence into their decision. They're not going to necessarily want to work with you if you haven't had a 5-star review in years. So consistency matters because it's showing people that you're continuing to provide good service over time. And that's very, very important when it comes to getting new clients.
Yeah, and the algorithm uses it as a ranking signal as well. So fresh, consistent 5-star reviews are big. So let's talk about some practical steps to becoming more consistent. I want to talk a little bit about how you can use AI tools like Max to help prepare yourself, organize, create a marketing calendar, create a social post calendar. What are some practical steps that tax and accounting pros can use to be more consistent?
Those are both great examples, and the first two things I was going to say. So Max is CountingWorks Pro's AI system. If you're choosing to use Max or any other AI, it's really easy to go in and prompt it and say, hey, I'm working on a marketing plan. Tell it that you're working on consistency. Talk to the AI like you would a person, like you would a marketing assistant, and say, I really want to be more consistent in my marketing efforts. Can you create a marketing plan for Facebook specifically? I want to post 3 times a week. This is my niche audience. Tell it who you want to target. Ask it for graphic ideas or have it create graphics, depending on what system you're using. Some of them can even spit out the social media graphics for you now. Ask it for hashtags. Tell it to do trending research. Use topical, posts that are going to be newsworthy, that are going to be things that people are talking about right now. And it will spit out everything you need to start doing consistent posts. Do the same thing for other social platforms. There are different parameters for different social platforms, so I do recommend telling it what you're going to be posting on. So if you want to do a LinkedIn calendar and a Facebook calendar, I would do those as 2 separate prompts. You can tell it to build off of one to create the other, but have it optimized for each separate platform. Then once you have all your content for a month or 2 months or however long you're building out this content calendar, use a scheduling tool. Take one morning a month, take a couple of hours, and schedule out all your posts for the next 30 to 60 days. Then, unless there's some sort of breaking news or something you need to go in and update, you're going to be set. It's kind of a set it and forget it thing. And if you do that every 2 to 3 months, you're only going to have to sit down a few times a year and really schedule your content, but it's going to be super consistent as far as the posting schedule. So that's my recommendation, is to just really work it into your schedule and take advantage of the fact that AI is there to help you build out content that's really going to resonate with your audience.
Yeah, and those are all great things. So let's talk about now. We had mentioned, it takes, let's say, 3 to 6 months to start seeing results in what I'll call organic marketing. So the consistent marketing that we're talking about, that's when you'll start seeing you're moving up in the search engine results. You're starting to get more traffic. So I have a 2-pronged questions. You're going to have to answer one and then the second one. Why is that? Why does it take so long? Shouldn't I just rank? I just bought a domain. I put up this big website. Why am I not ranking high? That's issue 1. Actually, start there because I don't want to confuse the issue, and then we'll go into the next part.
So the reason you're not ranking immediately is, 1, you're in a YMYL space. In SEO, we call that your money, your life. Authority matters even more in finance and health and anything that's related to people's holistic welfare. So whether it's physical welfare, fiscal welfare, mental welfare, All of those things are considered YMYL topics, and Google in particular takes authority extremely seriously in those spaces. If you ever search for a health-related issue, probably 9 times out of 10, the top 3 results are going to be something like Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, because they have high authority in the health space. So in order for you over time to build that consistency, let's say you specialize in working with restaurant owners nationwide. We can even make this broad, but you want to rank for niche topics surrounding restaurant taxes. It is going to take time, and Google's going to need to see that you are consistently posting high value content about that topic in order for your domain to gain authority, your posts to gain authority, and overall your brand to gain authority. And all of these things come together. So the 5-star reviews we were talking about, the blog posts, the social posts, the interactions on social, the engagement you're getting, cross-posting to sites like TaxBuzz, to Newsbreak, things like that. All of that is going to signal Google that you are, in fact, becoming an authority in whatever niche it is you've chosen, in this case, restaurant taxes. So that's why you're not ranking immediately, because like anything good in life, web authority comes with consistent effort.
I love that. And I wanted to add some just real life examples. So what I find interesting, there's one particular client of ours that's been with us for years and years and years and years. I probably sold this client when it was a couple of people, working and building the websites and doing the SEO and everything. But what I find interesting is when I go in to look at their ROI and then their ranking, all the keywords, there's 2 things that are remarkable to me. Is one, how many, she's got well over 100 page 1 sets of keywords that this brand ranks really high for. They are not a master marketer. They're not doing actually a lot of stuff. They are in our concierge service, but they're not doing a lot of stuff that we also recommend. If you do that, you're like turbocharging everything. But consistency is the answer in that market. And it will be really hard for any other brand to come into this person's market and kick them off of the top. I think that is really important. The second thing is, what you'll realize as long-term as this evergreen content starts building, you're going to start ranking with what we call long-tail SEO terms. And Rebekah, if you can explain that and why. So when I say long-tail, saying 529 plan versus 529 plan savings ideas for grandparents, there's 2 different sets of how a 529 plan would rank. So most likely the companies doing the 529 plans will rank for that term. When you do the long tail term and you write an article, a grandparent typing, how do I save for my kids or my grandkids' college education? Your article will show less competition. You don't have to have as high of an authority at that point to rank very high. So explain a little bit of the beauty of long tail keywords and then how that helps bring more targeted focused traffic, which converts at a higher rate.
Yes, I love this topic. Actually, this is something I talk to our clients about a lot. Think of long tail keywords as niching down in the search world. You are really choosing a topic that is going to hone in on something that you're passionate about and something you can easily build authority in, right? If you were to go in, say to Max and say, can you help me build a content cluster of 7 articles surrounding this long tail keyword, 529 college saving plans for grandparents, it could spit out 7 different topics related to that you would then link back to a core piece of content that was maybe 1,000 to 2,000 words, a large guide, and you would link back to that in all of these different articles you were posting. That's going to build you what we call a content cluster. Content clusters are the basis of how you build authority for any topic online. So if you can identify long tail keywords that you're interested in, or even just basic topics that you're interested in, and ask AI to help you research long tail keywords in that space, you are going to start building authority among people who really want the services you're offering. If you have expertise or passion in certain areas, and you start building content surrounding that, like Lee was saying, it's going to help you start getting more targeted audience members, people who are in the demographic that you really want to serve, because they're the people who are going to be searching for those topics. So much like when we talk about niching down, you might not get as many clients, but you're going to get more high quality, more high paying clients. The same thing kind of goes for the idea of ranking for long tail keywords within a specific space. You're going to start getting more readers who are actually interested in what you have to offer, who are going to convert into clients, as opposed to people who are just trolling the internet and clicking on everything and immediately bouncing off of your page, never to return.
Yes. And I think everyone at this point, I think you've shared a lot of great ideas and kind of like a marketing 101, SEO 101. But let's look at some takeaways that I can use. I'm a busy tax professional. It's January, early January. I'm getting ready for tax season. What are some quick wins for the busy season that you can do right now or before tax season starts that you can actually see some results from?
Schedule out content for the tax season. If you have free time this Saturday morning, sit down and do it. And that's another tip. Dive in. The sooner you start, the sooner that authority is going to start to build. If you can take 2 hours this weekend and schedule content to get you through tax season, you're going to stay top of mind for people automatically. Another great idea is to schedule emails. If you have certain things you want to be top of mind for people throughout this upcoming tax season, when your services are going to be something people are talking about, go ahead and set up those campaigns now. That's a really good way to prevent yourself from getting overworked, to prevent yourself from getting stressed and overwhelmed, because you're not going to have time in March to sit down and do this. But if you have time now, you can pre-schedule all this stuff. And I think pre-scheduling is one of the greatest gifts that, scheduling systems have given us as marketers, is that we can set things up ahead of time. Even if you're a DIY marketer, you can put that information out there, know that it's going to go at the right time, and you're not having to dwell on it when it's, March 23rd and you're in the throes of, last minute tax filing for people and dealing with putting fires out for your clients. So that's one huge tip. Another thing, and I kind of hit on it already, but just get started. This isn't something to put off. It's not something you want to wait until May to do, because this is the time of year that people need to see your services. This is the time of year you can start building authority. And if you start now, you're already going to have 3 months of marketing under your belt by the time the off season rolls around, and you can really sit down then and dive into what's been working, what hasn't, and put together some really great high quality campaigns for later in the year when you have more time to sit down and build out this type of content. And then, as Lee mentioned, newsletters are great. If you are a Accounting Works Pro subscriber, we have newsletters that we automatically send for you. But if you can commit to sending a newsletter once a month, that's a great starting point. It's a quick action item, and it keeps you on top of your clients' inboxes all year long.
I have 3 that you didn't mention.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, look at this. And it's kind of consistency, a little off topic, but the first one we mentioned already is testimonials. I would put together a testimonial outreach email. Supposedly you're not supposed to do this. Everyone does. Everyone asks for reviews. Send a email to your best clients. So whether they be your ambassadors or your client base, and just get some feedback. And if you're written properly, even if someone had been upset with you, you can actually get some dialogue to not get a bad review. But we've been doing this for our clients for years and years. We have built well over 100 reviews for a lot of different clients. TaxBuzz, Google, it really matters. I would then say another option is to between now and tax season, if you're using a tool like Accounting Works Pro, you can send out an easy intake form, or you can send out an email and just say, hey, I love working with you. I'm trying to do some case studies on some of my most successful clients. Would you give me a few tidbits and replies, and maybe have some open-ended questions that they just could simply reply to your question? You can take that information, go into Max, and say, hey, I want to create a case study based on this client, maybe put the URL of the client, put their answers and responses, and Max will write you a case study, throw it on your website, do an inbound link or outbound link actually to that client. So then you're scratching their back as well. There's some SEO boost from that. So that'd be number 2. The third one is just purely ask for referrals before tax season starts from your current existing client base. Maybe pick segments of clients. So people that you like to work with that are more, maybe you're developing little niches within your practice. You want to build more clients in that. Let's say law enforcement, let's say dental firms. A lot of times they're going to refer their colleagues, right? And even say that and send out a referral email to that side of your database, and you'd be shocked. You might be, all your growth may have just come from one of those 3 or all 3 of them. You do all 3, it's game over. So it's really easy to actually stand out in the tax and accounting space if you're consistent. The problem is, I'm going to say 99% of the time when someone fails at marketing in this vertical, they're either not responsive, but they're definitely not consistent. And I hope we've given you enough points to kind of inspire you to pre-plan, use a service like Counting Pro, obviously, but there's a lot of different ways to do this. So that is a wrap on today's podcast, Mastering Consistency. If you enjoyed what we did, please share our podcast with others. Also, you can subscribe if you're watching this on our YouTube channel or any of the different podcast channels. The reality is, there's real value in sharing your expertise consistently. The power of automation, the power of testimonials, and take your firm to the next level. So hopefully you have gotten some value from this subject. We've been debating a bunch of different things. I think, Rebekah, you have a concept for next week. What are we talking about?
I do. I believe what we are talking about next week is, what did we say we were talking about next week? I have a note.
It's a blog article.
Generalist firms. That's it. How to outrun generalist tax firms by niching down.
Yeah. And the reality here too is you have firms like Intuit, TurboTax is coming after. This is tax prep I'm talking about, but you also saw what happened with Bench and that nightmare. I think you have more of an opportunity than ever to counter and position yourself against these outside threats. And then more importantly, a generalist CPA firm, for example, is much easier to overcome if someone has a specialty. And we're going to talk about all the different strategies, how to determine which direction to go and why you'll be successful. So hopefully we'll see you next week on our next podcast. Again, thank you for joining us today. We hope this was valuable. We look forward to seeing you in the near future. Thank you again.